My child, there's something I've never told anyone before, something so intimate about how heaven operates that even the angels whisper about it in hushed tones. Right now, as you're hearing these words, there are invisible inheritances being transferred to you. Not someday, not when you die, but in this very moment. These aren't material blessings or spiritual gifts as you understand them. These are something entirely different. Every person who has ever genuinely loved you, even if that love was imperfect, even if they hurt you later, even if they're no longer in your life, every act of authentic love toward you has created what I call love deposits in your spiritual account. These deposits don't disappear when relationships end. They don't evaporate when people die. They don't vanish when people change. They accumulate, compound, and become part of who you are forever. But here's what no one has ever understood. These love deposits aren't just emotional memories. They're actual spiritual currency that you can spend on behalf of others. Every genuine compliment you received as a child, every moment someone believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself, every time someone chose to see the best in you when you were showing your worst, all of that love is still alive, still active, still working in your life. Right now, you're carrying the accumulated love of your grandmother who told you that you were special. You're walking with the confidence your third-grade teacher deposited when she said you were smart. You're operating with the courage your friend gave you when they stood by you during that difficult time. All of these love deposits are compounding with interest, creating an inheritance of emotional wealth that's beyond calculation. But it goes deeper than this. Every time someone forgave you, even when you didn't deserve it, they made a forgiveness deposit into your spiritual account. Every time someone showed you patience when you were being difficult, they created patience capital that you now carry. Every time someone extended grace to you in your mess, they built grace equity that's now part of your spiritual DNA. And here's the mystery that will change everything. You don't just carry these deposits for yourself, you carry them for the people you'll meet who never received them. That love your mother gave you, you're carrying it for the person you'll meet whose mother never loved them. That encouragement your mentor provided, you're holding it for someone who never had anyone believe in them. That forgiveness you received, you're stewarding it for someone who's never been forgiven. This is why certain people are drawn to you without understanding why. This is why some individuals feel safe with you before they even know you. This is why strangers sometimes open up to you about things they've never told anyone. You're carrying invisible inheritances of love, grace, forgiveness, and acceptance that their spirits recognize even when their minds don't understand it. But most people go through life completely unaware of the treasure they're carrying. They focus on what they lack instead of what they possess. They obsess over the love they didn't receive instead of the love they did receive. They dwell on the ways people failed them instead of the ways people blessed them. You've been walking around thinking you're poor when you're actually wealthy beyond measure. You've been believing you're lacking when you're actually loaded with spiritual riches. You've been feeling empty when you're actually full of inherited blessings that previous generations of love have deposited into your life. Every hug you remember is still hugging you. Every kind word ever spoken over you is still speaking. Every prayer ever prayed for you is still working. Every blessing ever bestowed upon you is still flowing. Every act of love ever shown to you is still loving you, even if the person who gave it is gone, even if the relationship has changed, even if the circumstances are different. This invisible inheritance isn't affected by divorce, death, distance, or disappointment. It transcends time, space, and circumstance. It survives betrayal, overcomes abandonment, outlasts rejection, and endures through every storm. Once deposited, it becomes part of the eternal treasury of your soul. But accessing this inheritance requires you to do something that most people never think to do. You have to acknowledge it, activate it, and then invest it. You have to recognize the love deposits you've received, draw upon the grace capital you've accumulated, and then spend these spiritual riches on behalf of others who are bankrupt in areas where you are wealthy. However, there's something about these invisible inheritances that will shock you. Something about how they multiply when they're invested. Something about what happens when you start spending your accumulated love on others. What will shock you about how these invisible inheritances multiply is this. They don't just grow when you invest them. They explode exponentially in ways that defy every natural law. When you spend accumulated love on someone who's never been loved, that single investment creates a love eruption that spreads to people you'll never meet, in places you'll never go, for generations you'll never see. Here's how love economics really work in my kingdom. When you give someone the encouragement that was once deposited into your life, you don't lose that encouragement. It multiplies back to you 7 times stronger. When you extend the patience that someone once showed you, that patience doesn't decrease in your account. It compounds and creates more patience capital than you started with. But it gets even more incredible than this. Every time you invest your inherited love into someone else's emptiness, I take that single investment and broadcast it through what I call the love network, an invisible connection system that links every human heart that's ever existed. Your one act of kindness ripples through this network, touching hearts in China, healing wounds in Africa, restoring hope in South America, bringing peace to families in Europe. That smile you gave to the lonely person at the coffee shop, it didn't just brighten their day. It activated love deposits in 17 other people across 4 continents who were connected to that moment through the mysterious love network. That moment of patience you showed to your difficult coworker, it didn't just change their attitude. It released accumulated grace deposits into 12 other workplace situations around the world. This is why some days you suddenly feel waves of unexplained peace, unexpected joy, or random encouragement out of nowhere. It's because someone, somewhere, just invested their inherited love into another person, and the multiplication effect is flowing back through the love network to bless you. You're receiving compound interest on love investments that people are making in places you've never been, with people you'll never know. But here's where it gets really wild. The love network doesn't just operate in the present, it operates across time. When you invest your accumulated love today, it can actually deposit encouragement into your past self who needed it, and it can pre-deposit hope into your future self who will need it. Love transcends linear time because I exist outside of time, and when you operate in love, you're operating in my eternal dimension. This explains those moments in your childhood when you felt mysteriously comforted during difficult times, even though no human was there to comfort you. It was your future self's love investments, traveling backward through the network to reach you when you needed it most. This explains those times when you felt inexplicably hopeful about your future during your darkest seasons. It was your present-day love deposits traveling forward to strengthen you for battles you didn't even know were coming. Every person you've ever loved, every kindness you've ever shown, every grace you've ever extended creates temporal echoes that reverberate both backward and forward through your timeline, blessing every version of yourself that has ever existed or will exist. But most people miss this because they think love is a linear transaction. I give, you receive, it's over. They don't realize that love is actually a quantum phenomenon that exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. They don't understand that every loving act creates ripple effects that continue expanding through the universe forever. When you truly grasp this, it changes everything about how you see difficult people. That person who's driving you crazy at work, they might be the exact investment opportunity that activates a massive love multiplication that blesses hundreds of people. That family member who pushes all your buttons, they might be the gateway through which your inherited patience deposits create peace in situations you can't even imagine. The universe is actually conspiring to give you opportunities to multiply your love inheritances. Every difficult person is an invitation to spend your accumulated grace. Every challenging situation is a chance to invest your inherited patience. Every moment of conflict is an opportunity to release your deposited forgiveness for exponential returns. But here's what makes this even more incredible. You can intentionally activate these multiplication cycles. You can deliberately trigger love explosions. You can consciously create compound blessing effects that reshape the spiritual atmosphere around you and everyone connected to you. When you wake up in the morning and consciously thank me for all the love deposits you've received throughout your lifetime, you activate them for investment opportunities throughout that day. When you deliberately remember the grace that was shown to you in the past, in love is ever truly wasted, even when it appears to be. Every kindness seed you plant in rocky soil still releases its multiplication potential into the universe. Every grace deposit you make into a closed heart still activates love network effects that bless others. Every patience investment you make into someone who doesn't appreciate it still compounds for future opportunities. This is why I can ask you to love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you. I'm not asking you to be a doormat or enable abuse. I'm asking you to be a radical investor who understands that love multiplication works even when the immediate recipient can't receive it fully. But radical investment requires you to draw from love deposits that are deeper than surface-level emotions. It requires you to access inherited love that transcends your current feelings. It requires you to invest from your spiritual trust fund rather than your emotional checking account. When someone hurts you but you choose to respond with kindness, you're not investing from your current emotional state. You're withdrawing from the kindness deposits your grandmother made when she was patient with you during your difficult years. When someone betrays you but you choose to forgive, you're not drawing from your present pain. You're accessing the forgiveness inheritance left by that friend who forgave you when you didn't deserve it. This is how you can love beyond your human capacity. This is how you can give grace when you don't feel gracious. This is how you can invest kindness when you don't feel kind. You're not operating from your limited emotional resources. You're drawing from your unlimited inherited deposits. But radical investment also requires you to understand something that most people never grasp. The bigger the deficit, the bigger the transformation potential. The more broken someone is, the more beautiful they can become when the right love deposits are invested consistently over time. The deeper their wounds, the deeper their capacity for healing others once they're healed. This means the most difficult people in your life might actually be your greatest investment opportunities. That person who triggers you the most might be carrying the biggest identity deficit that corresponds to your biggest love inheritance. That relationship that challenges you the most might be the exact place where your accumulated deposits can create the most dramatic transformation. And here's the radical part. When you begin investing in someone's huge deficit with your corresponding huge inheritance, you don't just transform them, you discover parts of your own identity that you never knew existed. You uncover love deposits in yourself that you never knew you carried. You access levels of grace, patience, kindness, and strength that surprise even you. The person you think you're serving actually ends up serving you by helping you discover the full extent of your inherited wealth. The individual you think you're transforming actually ends up transforming you by revealing capacities for love that you never knew you possessed. But as you begin to operate in this level of radical investment, as you start accessing the deepest levels of your love inheritance, something unexpected begins to happen. You start encountering what I call investment resistance. Not just from the people you're trying to help, but from sources you never expected. The investment resistance you encounter when operating in radical love isn't what you'd expect. It doesn't just come from the people you're trying to help. It comes from well-meaning friends who think you're giving too much, family members who worry you're being taken advantage of, and even fellow believers who question whether you're being wise with your emotional resources. But the most surprising resistance comes from within yourself. There's something I call wealth guilt that kicks in when you start accessing the deeper levels of your love inheritance. Part of you starts feeling guilty for having so much emotional wealth when others seem so poor. Part of you starts questioning whether you deserve to carry such rich deposits of love, grace, and acceptance. You'll find yourself thinking things like, who am I to think I can transform someone else when I'm still working on my own issues? Or maybe I'm being prideful by thinking I have something valuable to offer. Or what if I'm just trying to fix people to make myself feel better? This wealth guilt is actually a form of spiritual attack designed to keep you from fully accessing and investing your inherited riches. The enemy knows that if you truly understand how wealthy you are in love deposits, how rich you are in grace inheritance, how loaded you are with accumulated blessings, you'll become unstoppable in your ability to transform lives. But here's what I need you to understand. Wealth guilt is actually poor stewardship. When someone leaves you a financial inheritance, you don't honor them by keeping it buried in the ground. You honor them by investing it wisely to create more wealth that can bless others. The same is true with your love inheritance. You don't honor those who invested in you by hoarding what they gave you. You honor them by multiplying it. Every person who ever loved you, encouraged you, believed in you, or showed you grace did so because they wanted their investment to grow and bless others. They didn't deposit love into your life so you could keep it to yourself. They invested in you so you could become an investor in others. But investment resistance also comes in the form of what I call outcome obsession, becoming so focused on whether your investments are working that you start managing people instead of loving them. This is when you begin monitoring someone's progress, keeping score of their responses to your kindness, or getting frustrated when they don't transform as quickly as you think they should. When you catch yourself doing this, You've shifted from being a love investor to being a love controller. You've moved from radical investment to conditional investment. You've transitioned from trusting the process to trying to manage the outcome. True radical investment requires what I call investment detachment, the ability to make love deposits without being attached to immediate results. This doesn't mean you don't care about outcomes. It means you trust that love investments always produce returns, even when you can't see them, even when they're delayed, even when they benefit people other than your intended target. But perhaps the most challenging form of investment resistance comes from what I call capacity questioning. Moments when you wonder if you have enough love deposits to make the investments that are needed. Moments when you look at someone's massive identity deficit and think, I don't have enough inherited encouragement to fill a hole that big. Or, I don't carry sufficient grace inheritance to cover a wound that deep. This is where you need to understand something revolutionary about love economics. Your love deposits aren't limited to what you consciously remember receiving. You're actually carrying inherited wealth from love investments that were made generations before you were born. You're stewarding grace deposits that your great-grandparents accumulated. You're managing kindness inheritance that was built up by family members you never met. The love that your great-grandmother showed to a stranger in 1943 is part of your inheritance. The grace your grandfather extended to someone who wronged him is part of your deposit account. The patience your ancestors demonstrated during their trials has compounded over decades and is now available for you to invest. This is why sometimes you surprise yourself with how much love you're able to give, how much patience you can access, how much grace you can extend. You're not just drawing from your personal experiences. You're withdrawing from generational deposits that have been accumulating interest for decades. But accessing generational love inheritance requires you to do something that most people never think to do. You have to consciously connect with the love legacy of your family line. You have to intentionally access the accumulated kindness, grace, patience, and strength that previous generations deposited not just for themselves, but for you. This means thanking me not just for the love you personally received, but for the love investments your family line has been making for generations. This means acknowledging not just your own love deposits, but the grace inheritance that's been building in your spiritual bloodline for decades. When you do this, something extraordinary happens. You realize that you're not investing alone. You're part of a generational investment firm that has been accumulating love wealth for centuries. You're not just drawing from your personal account. You're accessing a family trust fund of accumulated grace, kindness, patience, and strength. And this realization completely changes how you see difficult people in challenging situations. Instead of thinking, I don't have enough love to handle this, you start thinking, my family line has been preparing for this moment for generations. I have access to accumulated love deposits that are more than sufficient for this investment opportunity. But as you begin accessing generational love inheritance and operating as a multi-generational investor, you're about to discover something that will revolutionize how you see your purpose on earth. What will revolutionize how you see your purpose on earth is this. You're not just managing your personal love investments, you're building what I call an eternal portfolio that will continue generating returns for generations you'll never meet. Every love deposit you make today doesn't just transform the recipe.